Hey everybody, I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer. But before today's show, let's listen to our sponsors. From traditional headsets to in-ear communications, Cavcon offers rugged and reliable choices for any communication challenge and any harsh environment. Cavcon's award-winning Talk Through Your Ears technology is specifically designed for clear and consistent in-suit communications. Whether you're working from a quiet control room or responding to an incident in a full level A, Cavcom has the comm system that's right for you. Any suit, any respirator, any radio, any environment. Check them out at cavcominc.com, that's CAVCOMINC.com, or give them a call at 866-547-4988. Hey everybody, we have a great episode coming up today, but before we start the show, we want to share some exciting news from the Hazmat Guys. As some of you may know, we have been working on a hazmat drill book for quite some time, and we're pleased to announce that it is finally available on Amazon. This book was written by contributors from the hazmat community based all around the United States, and we think it will provide a ton of value for both you and your department. The title of the book is The National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, 50 Drills to Improve Your Team, better known as NERD. No, this was not a mistake. Anyway, the goal of the book has been to help the hazmat community, and we hope that you'll take a moment to check it out and share it. We have the link in the show notes, and if you have a moment, please leave us a positive review in Amazon. We'd be very grateful. We wanted to get NERD on the bestseller list and give more exposure to our community. Again, the book is called National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, 50 Drills to Improve Your Team, and there's both a paperback and Kindle version available. Thank you, everybody.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys. This is episode 164, and today a little chat about some refrigeration.
Yeah, but before we get into that whole thing, we will be out in the streets again.
Hitting the streets.
Out in the streets, doing Florida. That's coming up rather quickly in the middle of January. We are also going to be in Wisconsin, and I think we just got the Midwest. That is, emails are coming out any second. So eagerly waiting for that from our friend Rick Emery and his associates, I think they call
Ooh, associates.
them. Yeah, it's very hot.
I wish I had associates.
Good times, good times.
I just have people that either like me or don't like me. I don't really have an associate.
Yeah, it's like being pregnant. You are
or you're not. Oh, so today, that's it, right? That's all the events going on?
That's it for right now.
So today we're gonna chat a little bit about a type of hazmat that is really out there in almost every town, every supermarket, every house, and we really don't give it too much of a second thought.
Yeah, we see this very frequently, right? And generally, the first two units are the only ones that really takes effect over. So we really don't get into it very much.
No. I think from especially from an operations point of view, we almost never talk about this until it's too late. And we've seen this happen kind of like multiple times where we arrive on scene and the first two units are there and everybody's really quiet and they're just being quiet. And then later on, we're like, hey, everybody okay? You guys good? And they're like, no, actually, we're not.
Right.
So, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Freon leaks. And I get it. I know it's not the sexiest topic in the world, right? It's not CBRNE or anything crazy like that. But just think about how absolutely abundant these refrigerants are out there in the world.
Yeah, like Mike was saying, every house, every shopping center, every hospital, every building, everything has it. So before we even get into that, let's dive into how we operate on a scene when we have something like a Freon, an AC, a condenser, a coil, whatever. When we have one of these leaks, where do we start?
All right, well, I think we should start by not calling them Freons.
Okay.
All right, so Freon is kind of a brand name. Right, so like Xerox and copy machine, right? The other chemical companies get really irritated when you're like, oh, it's all Freon. But there's even actually more to that, because you're talking about research and you're talking about talking with companies and Chemtrack and the whole nine yards. So we want to kind of be all on the same page. The generic name for these are actually called halogenated hydrocarbons, which is just kind of a fancy pants way of saying a hydrocarbon, or a hydrogen and a carbon, with one of the halogen elements attached to it in some way, shape, or form. And those halogen elements, for those that don't quite remember, are going to be your fluorine, your chlorine. And when we're dealing with freons and the refrigerants, sometimes bromine and sometimes iodine as well. But the more common ones are going to be your fluorines and your chlorines.
Right. Now, these halogenated hydrocarbons are a huge portion of the organic chemistry realm, right? So when we were going to school for this stuff, they spent a lot of time on this thing, either in the refrigerant section, and the only reason why they're really refrigerants is because they have a thermal ability, but you also are going to see these same things in a liquid format, like a halogenated solvent, right, where they use it in industry. And a little tip from Uncle Bob, halogenated solvents typically go down in water. So you have a sinker, it's probably a halogenated hydrocarbon. But anywho, the gases that are used for cooling and refrigerant systems are only a small section of this group. There is a significance to this, because we can't treat all the halogenated hydrocarbons as if they are, benign, or, just as refrigerant gases. It's almost like we start saying, if you think about gasoline is hella flammable. It's a badass chemical, but because we always put it in our cars, we get so glazed over at how dangerous this stuff is. You see I've seen people literally smoking while you're standing next to the sign that says no smoking, as per the fire marshal, and we have this stuff all over the place. They leak all the time. That's why the garbage men or garbage people. My apologies.
It's okay.
Preemptive. I should. Well, I'm not. I'm not. They won't take refrigerators and ACs unless you. At least in New York City, I know they will not take it unless there's a sticker saying it was purged properly prior to pickup.
Right, or at least cut by you. And
yeah, just cut and just let it go. Whatever.
But even saying like refrigerated gases isn't really a good term, because some of the gases that are used as cooling gases aren't halogenated hydrocarbons in any way, shape, or form, and they will actually have completely different physical and chemical properties.
Right. So, like, let's think about ammonia or propane, right? Both of these things actually have an R. So what I mean by that is that they have an R value, right? And I think this is the time to bring this up.
Yeah, why not?
There are. I just did a whole thing on R values. There's over 740 of them, and I started to scroll through it and started looking like the beginning of Return of the Jedi, where it just kept scrolling. I'm like, holy crap, they're incredibly big. But things like you wouldn't ammonia, propane, benzene, butane. All these things have an R value, and they're very common refrigerants that are not halogenated hydrocarbons, right? They don't have the hydrogen and the carbon. They may not even have the halogen, which is the chlorine, fluorine, etc. in there. So what is important to here is that we're not looking for flammable, heavier than air gases. Then you're not going to find them. These things are going to be typically asphyxiants,
right,
etc.
Yes.
So we got to know where to look, is what I'm getting to.
Right. And it is important to kind of, we sit and we go propane, and some people go propane. Propane's not very common.
Yeah, it's a flammable. That's not.
But it's actually becoming more and more common as a refrigerant. And if you take a peek inside of the soda and the vending machines in your area, you would be really surprised to find out that the refrigerant that's running off of them is most likely propane.
Yeah, guys, you really have to look around and see what's around you. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to see a propane installation at an ice rink, but you will see an ammonia installation at an ice rink. You may see a butane installation and you'd be like, no way, there's no way that's happening. So there's a better chance that the propane that they're working with, let's say in that system, that soda system or whatever, is not even odorized, right? That's a nicety that they do for us to be able to say, oh, okay, it's leaking. That's in an open system. What they design this machine to do is be a closed system. They don't design it to leak.
No. No, yeah. They don't
Right?
sit there figuring, hey, in case it leaks.
Yeah, what if it leaks? So this is really important because if you're not looking for a flammable heavier than air gas, you're not going to find it, right? So you got to be looking low, and you got to have your flammable meter because you might not smell it at all.
Now think about this. For the absolute hundreds, like Bob said, what'd you say? 700 and...
Over 740. I don't remember.
Over 740. Damn. For the over 740 gases that are out there that are considered refrigerants, many of them have very low. They don't have low toxicity levels, meaning that you have to have a high concentration in order for it to become toxic. However, with every rule, there's an exception, and there are some out there that are relatively toxic at low levels. So, don't group all refrigerants together and be like, hey, I'm good, man. I'm going to go in there with no SCBA, or even I'm not going to go in there with bunker gear because it's not flammable. Like, the refrigerants can range in any sort of flammability and any sort of toxicity, but the large majority of them are relatively stable and non-flammable.
Right, and that doesn't mean that it can't hurt you. Again, like I was saying before, asphyxiation is an issue, et cetera, et cetera. So what we generally see is two types of leaks: a catastrophic system failure, right, where everything just deluges out, boom, it's out, or the slow connection leak, right, which you might need like a little bubbling soap to kind of find, but those things sneak up on you.
Yeah. So then what are the differences between the two, and how do they really affect our operation? To kind of start to digest this and understand, we really need to see the dangers between the two and what happens in a system that has refrigerants in it, because it's important to have that background to understand what exactly is happening.
Right. So one of the things you have to kind of understand in order to understand how the gases work is how air conditioners work. All right. You think, oh, well, it's throwing cold air in. And that is absolutely not what's happening. So what it does is it takes heat out, and it also takes humidity out. Right. So you always think hot and humid. That is not pleasant. Right. That is not a pleasant thing in your head. You think cool, and that therefore is less humidity. So it's taking the heat energy from one place and bringing it to another, which is typically outside. That's when we stand outside of, let's say, a window air conditioner. That vent in the back is screaming hot. It's pulling the heat from inside the room and putting it outside. Just so happens it's putting cold air in.
Right.
You think it's cold air, but
Right.
it's really not making cold air.
No, it's just air with heat removed.
Right, and that's also why you have a lot of dripping in the back of the thing, because it's pulling all the humidity out of the inside air and throwing it out the back side of it. So, with that being said, let's take a minute and let's talk about the refrigeration in a propane tank. You've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and the FiberTech wipes and mitts. They've just come out with Enhanced Decon Systems Kit, which contains everything you need to quickly decontaminate 6 to 24 operators and all their gear in one fully equipped grab-it-and-go bag. This kit has been hazmat team tested and approved, and it's the only full-team modified decon kit with the power of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes to counter hundreds of known and emerging threats. The EDS kit is perfect for incidents where a small footprint, low logistics decontamination SOP is appropriate. Are you operating in a harsh environment? No problem. Whether it's minus 10 or 104 degrees F, Dahlgren Decon will maintain its effectiveness and can be easily applied to neutralize threats. The kit is stable in temperatures from minus 40 to 160 degrees F if you carry the RSDL with you. If you use all the consumables in the kit, unlike other rapid deployment kits, you do not need to buy a complete kit to resupply. Just purchase one of the First Line EDS replenishment packs and order just the elements you need. When ounces count and the clock is ticking, grab the EDS kit and go. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or a quote at 703-955-7510 or email them at sales@firstlinetech.com.
Right. So if you contemplate a propane tank, right? Just your regular average barbecue tank. There's liquid that's under pressure, and when we open the top valve, when we let out some of that pressure,
Right.
the vapors, the gases come off, and the liquid in the tank starts to turn into a gas, right? It starts to actually bubble and boil, and that entire process takes energy to do that. In order to get that liquid from the liquid phase to the gas phase, because those molecules are moving faster from one to the other, energy has to go into the system.
Right. So where does the propane get the energy? It gets it from the environment, right? It's not. Think about this in two different ways. If I was to put a pot of water, and I think I've used this example on the show before, but if you put a pot of water on the stove and you see the bubbles popping up, it's boiling, it's going. What's happening is every time a bubble is formed, it takes the temperature down. That requires energy, and it brings the overall temperature of the liquid down. Well, how we keep going up in temperature? Because the flame is overpowering the bubbling phenomenon, we'll say, okay?
The auto refrigeration.
Auto refrigeration. Now I take this and take the same concept and put it into a propane tank, right? And now I say, okay, this thing is boiling like nuts, and we don't have that flame to keep bringing it up. So every bubble is making it colder and colder and colder, and that's why the tank gets cold. Now, let's reverse the process. If anybody's ever touched the air cylinder right after it got filled, like the SCBA cylinder, it's hot, right? So if I go from a low pressure to a high pressure, it gets hot. If I go from a high pressure to the low pressure, it gets cold. Think about your cylinder. You fill up your SCBA cylinder, I put air into it, thing's hot. I breathe the shit out of it. After a fire or something like that, the thing is frosted
Cold.
over, right? And this is because we compress air and we release air. And this movement of air is energy, and it is released in the form of heat or cold, because it's either eating or pushing to the environment.
So what exactly does that have to do with us? Well, in a cooling system, there's generally two separate lines. And there's all different types of cooling systems out there, right? Like Bob mentioned, the window AC unit, and everything's kind of all squished together. I have in my house the split units, where you have two separate lines that run long distance from one end to the other. And in these two separate lines, one of them is a liquid line, and the other one is a gas line. The liquid line turns into gas, pulls the heat from the environment, and then the gas is pumped to another location where it's turned back into a liquid, and all that energy that was stored in the gas is now released somewhere else.
Right. They play in the phase change operation there, right? So every time you change phases, there's a huge difference in amount of energy in the liquid or gas or whatever it might be. So what they're playing with is like expansion ratios. If the liquid line lets go, you have a much bigger issue than a small leak in the gas line, right? Just because of expansion. If I have a gas that goes 1 to 270, let's say propane, right? One shot glass of propane liquid equals 270 shot glasses of propane gas. So I want, honestly, I want a gas leak, right? Because it's a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
It's a shot glass to a shot glass. One shot glass of liquid is 270 of gas. That's not gooder, right? So now when we were talking about the references of like, it's not very toxic. But if these lines go, it can instantly fill a room with a concentration that would be harmful to us, right? So if I have a liquid line leak and that thing just boof, it just expands up to full, this room can be totally charged with toxic levels.
Right. And if you were to get past the toxic levels, like Bob said, it is also displacing oxygen, and you have low oxygen in the room. All that gas coming out has got to push something away, and oxygen is what it's pushing away. And this is where a lot of our first two units end up getting themselves into some trouble, because quite often these releases, if they're witnessed within a few minutes, people often call 911 and they're like, "Hey, I have smoke because there's this haze, this kind of foggy haze that is surrounding the area," and people are called in because of the haze. Now, the haze is due to a couple different things. One, you have that rapid cooling, so you have vapors, water vapor in the air that's actually chilled, but you also have lubricant oils that are mixed in with the refrigerants to help kind of keep everything going. And when you have one of these catastrophic releases, you get that in the air.
Right. Now, these oils are released, and yeah, they definitely produce a light haze. It's a little bit different, a little bit more oily. It has I can't really describe it, but you can definitely mistake this for smoke. And being the fire department or wherever you go, we just go in right now. Well, let's do a little reality check for those textbook and SOG Nazis that are out there. We don't put on our air as soon as we walk in the building, right? I mean, I know what it says in the books, and I know it says we say in school, but nobody's walking through the front door on air while the clerk is still inside.
Right.
Right?
It doesn't happen.
We don't do it. So when you go in there, you very well may be seeing this aerosolized lubricant oil mixed with the halogenated hydrocarbon refrigerant just floating around in there.
Ooh, all right. Side note.
Go.
I'm gonna derail us
All right, do
for a few seconds.
You can do whatever you want. Your show.
There was, we talk about the SCBA. There was an interesting, somebody posted something on Facebook, and I can't remember who the names were. So don't get insulted if you hear this and you're like, oh, shit, that was me. Where he goes, hey, does anyone have an idea what this could be? We were called, it was a CO run. We weren't getting anything on our meters, but there was this awful, awful smell that was in the house. And so somebody else had commented, well, why are you smelling that? You should be on air.
Okay.
So there was this little back and forth discussion about it. And, some people being like, well, that's crazy. Like, you put your mask on immediately, no matter what. And some people were like, no, you wait until your meter starts telling you got something, and then you put it on. So, and I was kind of going back and forth with that, and I was like, yeah, that's funny because we had been doing this, the notes for this show, and it's like, well, when for us, it's not realistic to throw on our face piece every time we actually have our meter out, even though we're supposed to, but we always have a meter out. So we're walking around in the street, I'm masked up, even though I'm not measuring anything. Like, at what point is it okay to be like, yeah, I'm going to wait for my meter to tell me something? And then at what point is it like, yeah, but if it's telling me something, then I'm already breathing it in.
Right.
So where is that fine line?
This is like the guy, there's always can be somebody that can just snipe it. You know what? This is the equivalent of that one guy where they say, when does size up start? And one guy will say, when I get on the fire department. One of the other guys said, when I get on the shift, or when the tones go off. And one guy will be like, well, when you're born. And it's like, no, you're just one-upping me, and this is not going anywhere. That's, the whole thing with the SCBA, when you put it on, I can make a strong argument on both sides.
On both sides.
But I'll be honest, I don't put it on until I have to put it on. And when is that? Maybe my meters tell me, maybe my senses, my spidey senses are tingling. I see signs and symptoms. All the pieces together are saying put it on.
Right.
No one thing is like, beep, oh, crap, I better put on my SCBA. I mean, I don't, we can go on for days about that. We should probably make a whole episode on when do you put your SCBA on.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's
That
going
might
to
be
be
a
the
fun
way
one.
to go. Yeah, that could be an interesting argument. We should try to get some opinions on that. All right, if you have an opinion on that, send it to us, please. All right, so back on track. What were we talking about here? We were talking about refrigerants, and we were talking about the need to go on air. And we were just saying, so if I'm going into a basement to search for smoke, right, as a firefighter, my mask isn't going on until I actually come across smoke, which means that the first due units, if they're thinking smoke and fire because that's what they've been called to, they're going to be walking into concentrated refrigerants and possibly really low O2.
Right.
And this has happened. We have been on scene in which first due units were, they were like, holy crap, we saw stars, we were going down, I don't know how we got out, and it's nerve-wracking.
Right, and this is a very quick and effective way of disabling a first due company, and it consequently makes the old O-ring on the IC pucker up, right? So, between liquid carbon dioxide, refrigerants, if you've ever had your run-of-the-mill call, that you're hearing that units are down, don't enter the building without being on SCBA, there's a reason that multiple people will go in fast, and maybe it's not something they ate. Something maybe a little bit different than whatever.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind, at least for us, when we talk to these first due units, they're acutely aware of the fact that maybe they should have been on air, but because they don't quite know, like they could justify it either way. So if you're going to interview them, do it quietly. Don't do it in front of one of their supervisors or chiefs, and just be like, listen, dude, I don't care whether or not you were. I just want to know if you were exposed and what your signs and symptoms are, and don't make a big deal out of it, because if they feel like they should have been on air and they made a mistake, they might clam up, and that could be potentially dangerous for them in the future. So just kind of keep this in mind. And now we're going to try to go into kind of a scenario of what may happen in a house or a building or something like that. When you think of the systems that are used in supermarkets, right? Well, I should rephrase this. When we're going to go into this scenario, I don't want you to think of a house, right? I want you to think of a large supermarket, even small office buildings, things that you could actually encounter in your first due area that potentially has a tremendous amount of refrigerants on this. And I know personally, probably in 2018, I was on about 20 of these. So they happen really, really, really frequently.
Yeah. So one of the most common things that we're not just asked, but I think is just on everybody's mind is, okay, so what's up PPE? And I honestly think it's a kind of an easy one. This is more of an easy one. I'm going to write out, say, bunker gear and SCBA, and I'll tell you why. Because first off, we're saying it's possibly a flammable. We're saying it's probably a toxic. But Bobby, why would I go in my bunker gear and SCBA? Well, because the difference me switching up something, right? So do I go to a B? Well, is it liquid? Probably not, right? So, okay, it's a gas. Well, that means maybe I need a level A. Well, the only time I get into a level A, well, not the only time, but a big consideration, is it skin transmittable? None of these are skin transmittable. Well, you know what?
I think there's like one or two.
Yeah, you know what? Ammonia. Somebody's going to throw, well, ammonia. Yeah, you're right. Ammonia would probably one of those level A jobs. But again, you're going to have to look up something. But 99% of them, maybe 98% of them, you're going to be using bunker gear and SCBA.
Yeah, I think the very least we're getting off in bunker gear and SCBA until we have significant reason to change.
Right. You need to change at a certain level, your action level. But you don't come running out of the rig on the plastic. If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and leave us a positive review. And don't forget to check out the book, National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, or NERD, on Amazon.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at the Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 and go to www.thehazmatguys.com and sign up for the newsletter.
We seriously look forward to your feedback about any of the information provided, and we also want to hear about interesting incidents that you were a part of. So you can send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com. And remember, any of the information that you share with us, if we put it on air, can always remain anonymous.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.